This is the OTB Television Network.
And Better Talk now is asked for his best run. He's got 6 to make up with 3/16 to go. And English Channel has taken the lead at the 8th bowl. And Honey Rider is trying to run with him. She's second now. Better Talk now won't get there. English Channel has the lead. And he will win the UN again. English Channel by a length and a half.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. Along with my colleague Mike Veach, the racing columnist with the Saratogian, I'm Mark Asano, welcoming you to this morning's July 14th edition of the program on an absolutely glorious Saturday morning. In front of us, 90 extremely busy minutes featuring 4 special guests. In just a moment, we will be joined by the managing partner of Saratoga Stable, Mr. Jack Knowlton, and he will talk to you about the retirement of Funny Side. Later on, Mr. Steve Standridge, whose mock ride looked very good, upsetting the Smiles Sprint last Saturday. Mr. Buff Bradley, who not only brought Brass Hat back from a 13-month injury-induced vacation, he not only came back and won an allowance race at Churchill, he set a track record in the process. And finally, Mr. Tim Hills, who later this afternoon in the Poker Stakes in New York will send out one of my favorite New York breds, Gimme Credit. Along the way, we'll recap a dozen stakes, answer your emails, and talk to you about Saratoga. So all of that and a little bit more if you stay with us on this gorgeous July 14th morning.
It
Good morning.
is. Happy Bastille Day. I'll let you look. He has to look that up. So he has to look that up.
Good Lord. You ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go.
Well,
absolutely.
folks,
Very busy, interesting morning here today. So
this show was completely put together when last night, it certainly caught me by surprise.
Oh, me too.
This story.
Yes. Yeah.
Our first guest this morning, he was on this program for the very first time the week before the 2003 Kentucky Derby, having a very nice 3-year-old who was looking to make history. This morning he joins us as the managing partner for a dual classic winner, a champion, and one of the most popular horses of recent times. Ladies and gentlemen, the managing partner of Saratoga Stable, the owner of Funny Side, Mr. Jack Knowlton. Jack, Mark, and Mike welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be there with you.
Good morning, Jack.
Jack, all reports were that Funny Side was happy and healthy and enjoying what he was doing. Why'd you retire him at this point?
Well, Barkley and Robin and I had dinner Thursday night down near Belmont, and as we periodically do, talk about the future and where we're going to go with Funny Side. And, you know, as we got deeper into the discussion, we said, you know, there really isn't anything left to prove. He's going out, the scene at Finger Lakes was just an incredible scene. 12,000 people out there, 100 plus of family and friends of the Sack at 6 made the trip, half of us on a bus. And, you know, Robin was just, you know, thrilled. But, you know, we've come to realize that, you know, he obviously isn't the same horse he was at 4. And why do we need to keep going? Let's go out with a win. He started his career with a smashing maiden victory at Belmont. Let's go out with a memory of winning a $100,000 stakes race.
Jack, how important was it for you to retire him off of victory? And basically the second part of that question, had he not won the Wadsworth, would he still be in training?
Well, it's you know, hard to say, but, you know, it was just, such a thrill. It was really a mini Belmont Stakes, to be honest with you. Going out to Finger Lakes, obviously, a crowd of 12,000 out there almost felt like the 100,000 plus we had at the Belmont. And literally everybody in the house was there to see Funny Side, to cheer him on to victory. It happened this time as it didn't happen at Belmont. And it's just a memory that I think, all of us certainly that have been involved in the horse will never forget. And let's go out that way. Let's not, have to announce a retirement after, a second, a third, a fourth, or, worse in a $75,000 stake at Belmont or Aqueduct. Let's go out on top. He deserves that. And the more we talked about it, I think the three of us really agreed he doesn't have anything left to prove. He's won what he's won. He's earned over $3.5 million. He doesn't have anything left to prove. And, everybody in our group is just, very, very supportive, think that it's the right thing to do. And he's going to be able to continue being at the racetrack. We'll be able to see him. Barkley and Robin are going to, use him as a saddle pony. He'll be out on the track every morning. And we just think that, it's the right thing at the right time.
That's wonderful, Jack. It's great that everybody's on the same page. I'll have a final question for you in just a moment, but for now, here's Michael.
Well, Jack, really, on behalf of our audience and for myself, I just want to say that, I thank you for your tireless accessibility to the media, for the way you and Saratoga went through this experience. I want our audience to know that Jack has stepped up to the plate so many times. Whenever the industry called, he went there. He served on ad hoc and other racing think tank groups. He, I think, has forgiven me for voting for Empire Maker. I hope that's the case. But most importantly, Jack, what I'd like to know is, will we see you at the sales this summer? I assume that Saratoga is going to hopefully stay in business.
Well, we are. I think as many of you know, last year we kind of expanded our circles, and we were fortunate enough to buy 3 yearlings at the 2 Saratoga sales. We purchased, with a second LLC, we formed 2 horses at the Mid-Atlantic Fazig-Tipton sale, all 5 New York breds, of course. And we're now in the process of putting together our 3rd group to go to the yearling sales this summer at Saratoga. We've got actually getting a little bit more aggressive with it. We've got an informational meeting out in the Rochester area Wednesday evening, one in Sackett's Harbor Thursday evening of this next week, and then we'll have one at Saratoga National on the 28th or 29th of August. So we're hoping, I talked to Tony Everard this morning from the New Episode Training Center, who initially picked out Funny Side and trained him initially. And, he's real high on a couple of the prospects that we've had down there. So, we certainly are realistic to understand there's never going to be another Funny Side. But hopefully, we're going to be able to get some horses that are going to be able to play in the New York Stakes game. And that's what we really hope to do.
Well, we're looking forward, Jack. And here's Mark.
Well, Jack, this may be an understatement. It has been a hell of a ride. Please convey to our audience what it's meant to you personally to have been able to go through this with Funny Side. He's taken you to places I imagine you never dreamed of. Talk about that, if you would.
Well, that's absolutely true. When, after his second race as a 2-year-old, when he won a stake down in Belmont, Barkley told us, maybe this horse is going to be good enough to get on the Triple Crown Trail. And, of course, we got all excited. And it, fortunately, for us, getting to the Kentucky Derby was, the highlight. I mean, guys like us who started out putting $5,000 a piece in to buy a $22,000 New York bred, you never think anything like that can happen. And just getting there was a thrill. And then when he won it and went on and had his smashing victory in the Preakness, 3 weeks before the Belmont, and the Belmont itself was just totally unbelievable. And then all the things that followed. I mean, we went to 2 Breeders' Cups. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, but that's just an absolutely incredible experience, going to the biggest race in the world 2 times, and then working with Sally Jenkins on a book and doing a children's book, and all the opportunities I've had to serve in the industry. It's all attributable to Funny Side. Right place, right time, and just a fantastic job done by Barkley Tagg and Robin Smullen and Jose riding him for the first 22 races. team effort, and our thanks go out to them for all that they did to make it possible for us to really enjoy the ride.
And Jack, he took you from Down the Stretch with Mark and Mike to the Today Show with Katie Couric, and that just about says it all. Jack, we have thoroughly enjoyed being along for the ride, as has the great majority of our audience. It's been fun watching them, and we thank you so much for your professionalism along the way, and wish you all the best in the future.
Well, thank you very much. It's very enjoyable for me to be with both of you guys on the set a number of times and by telephone, and we'll hopefully be running across each other again. Maybe we get another horse, not as big as Funnyside, but one big enough to talk about.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Jack. Jack Knowlton, ladies and gentlemen, the managing partner of Saratoga Stable, owner of Funnyside, dual classic winner, the 2003 Derby and Preakness, 11 victories from 38 career starts, and that says a lot in itself. Because in this day and age, when we talk about premature retirements, we're talking about horses being retired after, if we're lucky, 9, 10, 11, 12 starts, $3.5 million. The New York bred created more of a buzz, more interest, more than any other horse of the modern era.
No doubt.
When he accomplished what he did, folks flocked to get into partnerships.
No doubt.
They wanted to be part of the game, and much of that was due to Funnyside and his success and the Saratoga group. So congratulations to all of them. Congratulations to Barclay Tagg and Robin Smullen for doing a terrific job. All right, here we go. A couple of things concerning Saratoga. Got a programming note for you. Mark this down. During the Saratoga meet, Down the Stretch will air every Saturday morning for 60 minutes beginning at 10:30. New York City OTB will have their program from 9:30 to 10:30. Then we will be bringing you every Saturday of the Saratoga meet, the best guests we can bring you. The folks who have the major stars running that Saturday or that weekend, the newsmakers. So please don't miss any of the 6 shows from Saratoga. Down the Stretch will air every Saturday beginning at 10:30. Once again, the New York Racing Association offering season passes to Saratoga Racecourse. So for those of you who know that you're going to be attending the races, well, in the case of a clubhouse season pass, which is $75, if you know you're going to be attending more than 15 times, it's certainly well worth it. For the grandstand, all you have to do is attend more than 12 times, because that's only $35. Now, right up through next Saturday, the 21st, you can buy these season passes at the Saratoga Customer Services Office from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, cash or check only. Next Sunday, a week from tomorrow, from noon to 4 during the open house, you can buy the passes, and they will accept credit cards. So that's the Saratoga Racecourse season passes. Got a little note from Mike Kane at the Museum of Racing talking about their Saratoga preview program, which will be Monday evening, July 23rd, free, open to the public at 7 p.m. And their guests, Charlie Hayward, NYRA president, as well as NYRA's racing secretary, P.J. Campo. So mark that on your calendar, Monday evening, July 23rd, 7 p.m. at the National Museum of Racing in Hall of Fame. And we have a look at the first Sunday giveaway of the Saratoga meet, the baseball cap giveaway, and there it is, a red cap with Saratoga, NYRA on the back. I still think there are far too many giveaways, but that's only my opinion. But there's a look at a good-looking baseball cap, the Saratoga cap giveaway, the first Sunday of the meet. A number of top 3-year-olds on the work tab this past week around the country. Let's take a look. The Kentucky Derby hero Street Sense worked twice at Churchill Downs. Last Sunday in a minute 2/5 breezing, and yesterday a maintenance work in 102 and 1 breezing. Rags to Riches, the Belmont Stakes heroine, worked 5 furlongs in 104 and 1. A little bit slow there for a tremendous filly like her. That may boost your confidence when we make the cigar bet,
Well,
or the box of cigars,
Yeah.
or the humidor
Well,
of cigars?
here's the way it is. Time out right here. You can leave the graphic up there. I was thinking about what you said last week, and I think it would be accurate if it was your box versus my one. Do you feel that strong?
Now, in company at Churchill Downs working, the Preakness hero Curlin, as well as Tis Wonderful, who may be making his 3-year-old debut in the Jim Dandy. They worked in company 3/4 in a minute 12 and 4/5 breezing, and finally at Delaware Park, hard spun second in the Derby, third in the Preakness, worked 5/8 in a minute and 1/5 breezing. Now, partner, you have a little more information about several of those works.
Well, actually, I do. And as some of you may know, the retired trainer and now chief clocker at Churchill Downs, trainer Pete Vestal, is a longtime friend of mine, and he actually called me after the Curlin work, and he said, we trade notes up on a regular basis, but he said, I really have to tell you what I saw, particularly with Street Sense and Curlin when they came back. And his description of Street Sense, Mark, is, if possible, he's smoother than he was before the Derby. And he said Calvin was literally on the corners, standing up in the irons, waiting to set down and give the go signal. And he said Street Sense never, ever wavered during that whole thing. He said Curlin was most impressive working with Tis Wonderful, gave him about a 2-length spot, and he said Curlin got over the ground extremely well. And he said, as far as Midsummer goes, 2 of the finest works he's seen this year since he took the job.
Wow.
So if they all hold together for one summit meeting and they keep this kind of form, it's going to be exciting.
Street Sense, again, possible for the Jim Dandy, possible for the Haskell. Personally, I think they'll use the Jim Dandy and get a race over the track.
Yeah.
That way they don't have to ship. They don't have to worry about money,
Yeah.
since Mr. Taffel has been given
Yeah.
many millions of dollars by the sheikhs. So Street Sense, still at Churchill. Curlin and Tis Wonderful, as far as I know, have shipped to Saratoga. And Hard Spun will likely go to the Haskell, as will Curlin. Tis Wonderful for the Jim Dandy, and Rags to Riches, wherever she wants to go, will be great. Coaching Club American Oaks, then possibly the Alabama. All right. We have got a number of emails to read for you, and my partner's got one from Mike in Saratoga.
From Mike in Saratoga. Hi, Mike and Mark. I work for a vet at Saratoga, so I don't get to watch your show as much as I would like to, but I know how much the history of our sport means to both of you. This past week, I watched an interview with Yankee Don Mattingly, who was from my area of the country. After hearing him talk about what it meant for him to meet so many Yankee greats, I was inspired to relate what a thrill it's been for me, and I share this with you, Mike, to have met people like Nick Zito, Todd Pletcher, Carl Navsker, and others. But to also call them my friends means so much. But I would be wrong if I didn't mention the equine stars that I've had the great fortune to have worked with as well. Horses like English Channel, Banshee Breeze, Vicar, St. Liam, Sand Springs, and so many more that have enriched my life, more than I could ever have thought possible. It's that contact with these amazing animals that keeps me coming to work every day. There are so many questions about the future of our sport. It worries me, Mike, it worries me a lot right now as we speak. Whatever changes there are to come, I hope the powers that be don't forget that without the fans, the people who work with these animals, and the athletes themselves, we don't have a sport at all. Keep up the great work both of you are doing, and here's hoping Saratoga Meet is safe and profitable one for everyone. Thank you, Mike, for writing us.
Thank you, Mike. Paul from Lake George said he's been traveling a ton and has missed a few shows. He enjoyed last week's show, Good Makeup. And if I'm not mistaken, Paul is a partner in Unbridled Bell, who will be running tomorrow in the Delaware Handicap, the $1 million Delaware Handicap.
Yeah.
And as I, often say, if you're going to run, it may as well be for $1 million.
Absolutely.
So, Paul, all the best with Unbridled Bell. From Frank. Frank said, great interview with Rick Violet, particularly the part about the 2-year-olds he mentioned, a 2-year-old by Song and a Prayer and a 2-year-old filly by Montbrook. They both ran a hole in the wind, beating heavy favorites from Todd Pletcher. One was Fed Watcher, who returned 1360. Another was Phantom Income, who returned 1160. Frank, thank you. Let's hope that Rick continues on that, because he's on a tremendous roll.
Yes.
Let's hope we see many more of those 2-year-olds at Saratoga. And for Mike and for Frank and for Paul, Thank you very much for those of you who would like to correspond with us here at Down the Stretch. Here are the ways in which you can do that. Down the Stretch, Mark and Mike, Capital District OTB, 510 Smith, Schenectady, 12305, or electronically at viewermail at capitalotb.com. All right, let's go to the races. Last weekend, another terrific weekend of stakes action. We are going to begin at the Jersey Shore at Monmouth Park with a running of the United Nations. Only 5 in the field, but it featured the 2-3 finishers from last year's Breeders' Cup Turf, number 2 Better Talk Now, and number 1 English Channel. Take a look at English Channel. He drives me nuts because at the age of 5, he's still throwing his head around. He simply doesn't want to settle. The UN also featured the 3rd place finisher from the 2006 Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, that being number 5 Honey Rider. So Todd Pletcher had number 1 English Channel and number 5 Honey Rider. And shockingly, they ran 1-2 in here. Even though it took English Channel a good 3/8 of a mile to finally settle. Right now he's in second, stalking the, hopelessly overmatched Fry guy. He just doesn't want to settle. I don't know what it is about him, but once he does around the second turn, he's going to stalk a conservative pace, 25-3, 49-4, and he's going to win by a pretty handy length over a stablemate Honey Rider, who I thought ran well in here against the boys. A distant third would be Better Talk Now. Better Talk Now, last on your screen, simply was up against the pace. When you have a pace like this, Better Talk Now, unless the turf is very soft, has very little chance. And he's going to be a non-threatening third, but it's Todd Pletcher 1-2 with English Channel and Honey Rider.
It's unfortunate we couldn't connect with Graham Motion last week, because that was really going to be one of the key questions I had for Graham, is how does this look at you in a situation with a short field and what surely is going to be an odd pace. I still thought Better Talk Now did okay, but there are 2 points coming out of this race that I'm going to make a mental note of. One, of course, the Breeders' Cup Turf is here, and English Channel, for whatever reason matters, he likes Monmouth Park and he likes this distance, so he's certainly going to be a factor. The second point coming out of this race is, as we speak, and obviously this can change, but as we speak, both English Channel and Better Talk Now are on the record as being aimed at the Sword Dancer, and that excites me for that race at Saratoga. We don't get to see turf marathons at Saratoga, and if they both show up, it's going to be quite important, in my opinion.
Well, yes, the Breeders' Cup Turf is at Monmouth, but it's 1.5 miles, not 1 3/8 miles. And English Channel is going to be facing a different pace scenario. He's going to be facing overall better quality horses.
Without question.
And he's going to have to learn to settle a little bit. Now, with that said, he ran 2:12-4, which is a new course record. But again, most course records are more dependent on the condition of either turf or dirt and not necessarily the horse itself. So while I thought it was a very nice effort by English Channel and the mare Honey Rider, English Channel is going to have to, learn his lessons a little bit more.
It's nice to be home. That means a lot to me. And you said before that you're not sure 12 furlongs is his best distance anyways. And I'm not either, but it's nice to be there when you do so well there. So
I think he's such a talented horse, he could win the Breeders' Cup Mile. That's how talented I think he is. All right, here in New York, 3-year-old fillies went postward in the Grade 1 Prioress, and the heavy favorite on the far outside, which I thought was a big benefit to her, number 9 Dream Rush from the white-hot West Point stable and Rick Violet. Dream Rush coming off a second in the Acorn where she simply couldn't get 8 furlongs against Cotton Blossom that day. Here, she's going to sit outside the early speed of Ticket to Seattle, going to take over under Abarcoa going to the far turn, and she's going to go on to a very handy 2 1/4 length victory over number 6, Graham 6. A shipper for Tommy Amos from Churchill, who was running in allowance conditions. She ran very well to be second at 20-1. Silver Knockers from the inside post, a non-threatening third. But in the Prioress, it was all Dream Rush.
Was all Dream Rush, and this has become one of the top sprinting fillies east of the Mississippi. We think that she just couldn't get the 8 furlongs at that point in her career. When we spoke with Rick Violet and I asked him about the plan, the test remained, quote, the major summer goal, but the chance to get a Grade 1 victory under her belt and come back fairly quickly was obviously worth pursuing, and now it's on to Saratoga for the Grade 1 test.
And 7/8 of a mile at Saratoga in the test. She will likely face some better competition, and in fact, may be facing Octave that day. We're going to have to see if Octave, if they decide on the test or the or the Alabama for Octave. But here, she simply showed her superiority, winning by 2 1/4, off fractions of 22 and 44 and 3. She stopped the teletimer going 3/4 of a mile in 1:09 flat. Here's a filly who has overcome a number of inside posts during her career. And it's always been my opinion that inside post in sprint races, when you have speed obviously outside of you, is a difficult thing, but she has never run a bad race. 5 wins, 2 seconds during her 7-race career, and she's a nice filly.
I love the return to the winner's circle picture there of how composed and elegant she looked. Wouldn't you like to see all of them come back like that after a Grade 1 win?
And
Give me more.
Boy, oh boy, West Point and Rick Violet on a
Yes.
real roll. Now, big race last Saturday, worth $500,000. Calder Racecourse, torrential downpour, early afternoon. The track labeled good, drying out, and conducive to speed when they ran race number 12, the Smile Sprint Handicap, and the favorite on the far outside, number 7, Smokey Stover, a winner of 4 in a row. Watch him, folks, in the orange silks. I am not one to make excuses for horses unless I feel they're legitimate excuses. When you talk about trips, you can pinpoint legitimate excuses a little bit easier than you can here. It is my opinion, and only my opinion, that Smokey Stover did not handle this racetrack very well. You're going to see him for a very short period of time racing to the far turn, level off and move up after the leaders. And the leader right now taking over on the outside is the eventual winner, number 6, Mock Ride. But just as soon as Smokey Stover made that brief run, take a look at his head, take a look at his action. I simply don't think he liked the racetrack, but Mock Ride loved the racetrack. He loved the blinkers, and here he is winning the Smile by 2 lengths over Paradise Dancer. Calder base horses run 1-2.
Smokey was going to need his running shoes even if he did like the track. I don't think he liked it either. Everything about him says uncomfortable, but nonetheless, this guy here winning this race has been due to do something like this. And in a moment, we're going to hopefully chat with his trainer. This was a very, very nice effort, very, very beautifully done. And, you know, like Dream Rush, this is suddenly one of the top sprinters on the East Coast. He beat a good field here.
Yeah, he really did. And I liked Mock Ride early in his 3-year-old season. I liked the way he looked winning a minor stakes at Calder. And I liked the way he looked when he ran a bang-up second to Too Much Bling in the carryback. I thought he had a very bright future. But you know what? He never won another race until winning the Champ Ali back on June 16th, the race before this. So something went amiss with him. I think they were tinkering with his running style a little bit. But ever since Steve Standridge added blinkers, 2 starts back, he has been absolutely terrific. You agree with me, Smokey Stover probably didn't like the race.
I think he didn't like it. I mean, particularly when you saw him in the straight, he was all over, trying to get comfortable basically, and had his head up. And you know, Greg isn't going to be pleased with something like that. I do think it was the strip, yes.
And Fabulous Strike, who had come into the Smile Sprint off 4 victories in a row, all with huge buyer numbers, 5th, beaten 12 lengths. Well, the gentleman who engineered the upset of the Smile Sprint is our next guest. To introduce him, here's Michael.
And with timing as good as the times posted by Mock Ride in the Smile Sprint, we do have trainer Steve Standridge with us. And Steve, if you're on the phone, welcome to Down the Stretch with Mark and Mike here in upstate New York.
Good morning,
Good morning,
guys.
Steve.
Well, Steve, we're very pleased to meet you this morning and have enjoyed just watching your runner win the Smile. A couple of questions here. To me, anyways, this is he comes from a real serious, hard-knocking family of runners who just went everywhere and won races. Pentelicus by himself, and your horse has been with some really good ones. I noticed that you were nosed by High Finance earlier this year. So I'd like to ask you, Steve, for openers, how is Mock Ride to train and to take to the track?
He's a pretty easy horse to train. I'd say he's normal. There's no quirks about him, and he's just fast.
That he is. Steve, you gave him a freshener after the Paunch handicap back in April. What was the thinking there? Any necessity for it?
Not really. We'd had him on the road for a while, and I just thought he kind of needed a little break.
Steve, you made the decision to go to blinkers for the Champ Alley and the race before the Smile. Talk about making that call, if you will, somewhat later in his career after 11 starts.
Well, I think he was kind of getting a little lazy on us, and the other thing was we were kind of taking him off the pace a little bit. And I think he was just starting to get a little smart, and I felt like he wasn't running up to his potential. So we decided to put the blinkers on him and just let him run, and it seemed to have worked.
It really did. And Steve, we're going to take a look at the Smile right now, and just talk, if you will, about his trip here and the way it performed, and if you thought that big of an effort was coming. Beautiful performance.
Yeah, it was a great performance, and I felt like if he ran back to the prep race, he would be right there. And I'm not taking anything away from my horse, but I think Smokey Stover and Fabulous Strike probably didn't run their races, but Fabulous Strike was getting away most of his races with 22, 22, and 1. Mm-hmm. And we knew that wasn't going to happen Saturday, so we took the race right to him.
Steve, when you look over the past performances of Mock Ride, there's a variety of styles or a variety of positions in the race. After 12 starts, do you, as his trainer, do you have a preferred style, or does he have something he wants to do? Obviously, the Smile was just as smooth as it gets, but how would you like to see him in your dream of trips?
Well, I'd like to get an outside post like he did the other day, mm-hmm. and just be. I think he wants to be on the lead or right close in the race. I think he gets a lot more confidence that way.
And Steve, finally, last year in Saratoga, which is just 2 weeks away as we speak, we saw you come up here last year for the King's Bishop. Might it be in your plans to visit Saratoga again this summer?
It's possible. I think we're leaning a little bit more towards the Vosburg in September.
Okay, with the Breeders' Cup Sprint as the ultimate this year?
Right. I think most of the horses I believe that will be in the Breeders' Cup Sprint will be in the Vosburg, so if he can run with them, we'll probably take him down to Monmouth.
Okay. Steve, for my part, thanks. Here's Mark Casano.
Steve, one quick question for you. How did he come out of this big effort in the Smile Sprint?
He came out of the race excellent. He's been back to the track several days now, and he's very happy. So I'm happy too.
I would imagine you would be. Steve, you talked about the Vosburg. Will you have a race between now and the Vosburg leading up to the Breeders' Cup?
Possibly. I don't think he really has to have one, but if something comes up around here where we can get a little race in him, we might do that.
Well, Steve, all congratulations on winning the Smile Sprint. I imagine that is the biggest stakes victory of your career?
Yes, it is.
Well, congratulations on that. He ran super. Great idea adding the blinkers, and thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch.
Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve Standridge, ladies and gentlemen, the conditioner of Mock Ride. And isn't it interesting? This isn't exactly an old horse.
No.
But yet, as we hear from some trainers, they get smarter.
Yeah.
They sometimes don't want to put out, and the blinkers sharpened him up, kept his mind on business. Boy, did he look good.
That's a great decision by Steve, and those things are hard to do. Some trainers just say, well, if something's not different after 5 races, I'm going to go with. No, he paid very close attention, and this guy's been around. I mean, he's a good, hard-knocking horse, and he comes from a family like that.
Yeah,
so.
Congratulations to Steve. And we are up to our first break. On this morning's July 14th edition of Down the Stretch on an absolutely gorgeous Saturday morning, thank you so much for having joined us when Michael and I return more stakes action. As we go to this break on the Smile undercard, the Princess Rooney. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a regionalized sprint race for fillies and mares, and it is a grade 1. So explain to me, if a regionalized sprint for fillies and mares can be a grade 1, how can the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint not be a grade 1?
You're way too critical, Mark. You're way too critical. They have to see how the Breeders' Cup sprint draws and take a look at it. Maybe they'll still go against the colts. What I wanted to say about this race is, you're going to hear the phrase California bred
A lot.
a lot today, and she comes from a sire who stands in New Mexico. It can happen for anybody. $15,000 weanling filly here. Take a look at it.
So enjoy the grade 1 Princess Rooney
Yeah.
going to the break, and Michael and I will be back with much more right after these messages.
And they're off in the grade 1 Princess Rooney. Shaggy Mane broke alertly up on the outside. Rivers Prayer is showing speed. Song of the South, G-City Gal, Stolen Prayer is also right there. Indian Flair and Selvatica are just 3 lengths off the pace. It's another 3 to True and True. Merrifield races down on her inside and about 7 lengths off the lead. It's another 5 back to Miraculous Miss. Then we come back down on the inside is My Kind of St. Dixie Dreamer between them. And Nosa Cancao will have to pass them all. She has got 18 to make up as they make their way into the far turn. Rivers Prayer going at it with Shaggy Mane on the front end. Nothing between these two. Stolen Prayer runs along from third. G-City Gal is moving through on her inside. Merrifield is starting to launch a rally. She's 3 wide, but still 5 lengths back as they come to the top of the lane. Rivers Prayer to the outside of Shaggy Mane. These two still right together. G-City Gal is in with a big shot under Krista Carlo, and she comes calling on the top 2. Rivers Prayer, Shaggy Mane, G-City Gal, then Merrifield as they run on down to the line. It's Rivers Prayer and Clinton Potts just in front. Rivers Prayer, Shaggy Mane. Rivers Prayer takes the grade 1 Princess Rooney.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left. I'm Mark Asano. The grade 1 Princess Rooney goes to Rivers Prayer, as Michael mentioned, a Calbred trained by Paula Capestro and ridden by Clinton Potts over Shaggy Mane, G-City Gal. The 3/4 of a mile over a track rated good, 1:10 3/5, 4/5 of a second slower than the Smile, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am, you know, I'm going to get a letter or an email. I don't think there was a single grade 1 winner in that field.
Oh, well.
I will bet you as many cigars as you want.
Well,
when we get to the Breeders' Cup filly and
but-
mare sprint, There will be Grade 1 winners in that field.
Well, Mark, it's July. These are 3-year-old fillies?
No, they're older.
These are older fillies?
Yeah.
How many Grade 1 sprints are available for them in the whole country? Not too many.
They've been running as 2-year-olds in
I mean,
Grade 1,
if they're
3-year-olds.
graded stakes winners, they belong there. But, you know,
Okay.
you have to see how they do coming out of the race as well. The Princess Rooney earned this, you know.
Okie dokie.
I
I'm just
think it
making
did.
a point. No Grade 1 winners in this field.
So, in your system of post-grading, this goes down to a 2. Is that
Yes,
what you do?
No question
okay,
about
well,
it.
there's,
Absolutely
I
no
thought
question
I'd get
about
that
it.
answer.
Okay, speaking of Grade 2 sprints for fillies and mares, nice segue, back here in New York, the first flight at 7/8 of a mile. Folks, you're going to see a pace scenario in here, which included a conservative pace early and a very fast pace the last 3/8 of a mile. And pay attention to number 1 Ginger Punch in the black and gold of the Stronach stables from Bobby Frankel. This daughter of Awesome Again, who was a fine second in the Ogden Phipps,
Yeah.
going 8.5 furlongs, turned back to 7/8 in here, found a field that she could not only handle, but dominate, and she's going to win off by 5 lengths under Rafael Bejarano, beating number 3 Sweet Fervor and number 2 Swap Flipperoo. No, bad pace scenario for Swap Flipperoo. She needs, she needs very fast fractions. Half mile in 46-3, but with a final 3 furlongs in 36 flat, Ginger Punch becomes a Grade 2 stakes winner.
Well, I mean, talk about those old angles from before there were complicated betting systems of the turn back in class and distance. This sure worked perfectly for this filly. I'm hoping that this, after the Grade 1 Phipps set her up for this performance, I'm hoping that the ballerina would be one of her future events. I don't know where he's got planned for her, but, you know, that's what I'm hoping anyway.
But you know, she's the type of filly who I think she's certainly talented enough to win sprinting. Now, we know we don't have mile races at Saratoga.
Yeah.
So you're either going to run 7/8 or a mile and an eighth. I've got a feeling
sure.
that Bobby thinks she can handle
Oh, absolutely.
9
Oh,
furlongs.
she can do that. I mean, look at her pedigree herself.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. No,
So
no question.
122 and 3/5. So it'll be interesting to see if we get Ginger Punch race against the
Yeah.
sprinting fillies and mares at Saratoga, or she tries the big girls
Mm-hmm.
again, going 9 furlongs. All right, speaking of 9 furlongs, out west at Hollywood Park, they ran the Vanity Handicap, a field of only 4. Folks, even in a 4-horse field, the trip can prove key. Number 1 is Neshoba's Key. This is an undefeated daughter of Silverhawk. 4 for 4 going in here. Watch the trip she gets from the inside post under Joe Talamo. Number 2 is Balance. This is a filly who has a huge experience edge over Neshoba's Key. Where Neshoba's Key is making only her 5th career start, Balance is making her 13th career start. She right now is at the very back of the pack. Watch the trip that Balance gets, watch the trip that Neshoba's Key gets, and Joe Talamo en route to winning his first ever Grade 1 as Neshoba's Key will never leave the fence and win the Vanity by 3/4 of a length over Balance.
How many times we've seen in short fields this type of thing actually happen. But once again, I'm going to raise the flag of California, another Calbred here. This filly trained by Carla Gaines, how good as a job has she done? This is a filly who started her career with 3 wins on turf in restricted company. Then she goes to synthetic surfaces, and she just remains unbeaten, getting a Grade 1 trophy under her belt here. And as Mark is pointing out, as we look at him going for home here, she's just waiting for the right time to go here. It's absolutely beautiful. This is a nicely bred filly by Silverhawk. They do like distance and they do like turf. She's from a family that was bred by the great Rothschild Empire in France. Group 1 horses there, and just tenacious here to remain unbeaten. She's one of these ones, Mark, that obviously does know where the wire is in her career.
She certainly does, and Balance was not going to catch her had they gone around 3 more times. You know, you do have to wonder. Here she is, 5 for 5, 3 on the proper surface, 2 over the
Yeah.
synthetic surface. I always have a problem with that word. You have to wonder, is she going to be a very special filly, or is it the fact that she's racing against suspect company? Because, folks, in California, you rarely get invaders. You rarely get shippers. You're racing against basically the same horses. Taking nothing away from balance, she's a very nice filly. We're going to have to see Neshoba's Key when she comes out of California and faces some of the big girls. All right. Now, in California, moving to the proper surface, the American Oaks. 3-year-old fillies for $750,000. Watch number 4, Panty Raid, in the yellow and green. She is from Todd Pletcher, who has a stranglehold on the 3-year-old filly division. Mr. Pletcher is picking his spots with his top 3-year-old fillies. And he decided, after several very nice works on turf, that Panty Raid was going to make her initial start on the proper surface in the Grade 1 American Oaks. Now, this is a filly who, in my opinion, doesn't have a tremendous turn of foot, quick acceleration. But in my opinion, she can run forever, and she will grind you to death. She did that in the Black-Eyed Susan, and she's going to do it again in the American Oaks, as she scores by 3/4 of a length in her first ever start on turf over number 3, Val Benny. Partner, Mr. Pletcher, as I said, has got a stranglehold on this division, and he just won a $750,000 race with his 3rd or 4th string.
I mean, if you're going to select a place to start on turf, you might as well go Grade 1 for $750,000, and that's what she does. She's a tough competitor. I'm kind of interested in her sire, Include, who was, I think we might have interviewed the late Buddy Deltford Includer. Was that the Richard Small family?
That was the...
I think it is Richard Small, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But he's a Pimlico Special winner, and he's just starting to pop around the country as a young sire. This filly is really from a great family. She's from Desert Vixen's family, so she certainly can run all day. But as Mark said, I mean, Pletcher is so deep here. Oh. I mean, he may be the only trainer of all the horses in next Saturday's Coaching Club American Oaks at Belmont Park. This is a nice performance, a steady performance. When she gets into her stride, you're going to have to be very, very good to get by her, and it ain't going to happen here.
It looked as though in the stretch they had a shot at her, but Edgar, with a solid, steady hand ride, I'm telling you, had they gone around 2 or 3 more times, they weren't getting anywhere near her.
Sure.
She can just grind you to death.
Yep.
She ground him in her first start on the proper surface in a $750,000 race. Just amazing how that man picks and chooses his spots so well. All right, we are up to our next break on this morning's mid-July edition of Down the Stretch. Thank you so much for having joined us. When Michael and I return, more stakes action. We'll take you to Churchill on closing day, give you a look at a pretty good allowance race, and then we'll welcome in our 3rd guest of the morning. As we go to this break, back in California at Hollywood Park, the Triple Bend Invitational. You know, nowadays invitationals are, going to take anybody you can get.
Oh, you're tough on California today.
Well, I think the Triple Bend, the highlight in here was the return of Surf Cat, he being number 5. This was his first start since May of 2006. So pay attention to Surf Cat as we take a look at the Triple Bend. Michael and I will be back with much more right after these messages.
Brinson looks over the field, backs off now to his position, so he gets a good look at all of the starters, and they're just about ready to go. Bilo from the outside, and they are set to go, and they're off. Good start for Sailor's Sunset, who broke running through from the inside. Bilo is sent up outside of him, and these two show sharp speed early. Got a ghost of a chance, and Battle One, our next silent name to the center of Cushion Track. Siren Lure is next, and Surf Cat's at the back of the pack, and Bilo is quickest up the back stretch. So it will be Bilo to set the pace. He is 3/4 of a length in front of Sailor's Sunset in second. Battle One backs off just a bit. He's 2 from the front, got a ghost of a chance, is already all in at the half mile. half-mile pole. He's just inside of Silent Name, who's 4 from the front. Surf Cat off the long layoff has moved out of last place. He's 6 lengths behind, and defending champion Siren Lure will have to pass them all. He's got 3 furlongs to do it in the triple bend. Buy Low tries to go it all the way. He's a length in front of Sailor's Sunset, who's angled outside of him and comes on the attack. Battle 1 goes right with Sailor, and the 3 of them line up. Then it's a lineup of 4 in behind them. Surf Cat's got run. Yellow Blinkers nowhere to go yet. Siren Lure is unwinding, and he's in the clear. Then got a ghost of a chance, and Silent Name and Bilo cuts the corner and comes to the final furlong, 3 lengths in front. Now Surf Cat is out, and he's 2.5 behind and trying to close in. Siren Lure not doing enough. Battle 1 is third. Bilo reaches. Surf Cat attacks. He might have him. It's Bilo. Surf Cat to the outside. Bilo says no! And Bilo held off Surf Cat, beat him by a nose. Battle 1 was third, and Siren Lure finished fourth.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left. I'm Mark Asano. The triple bend goes to Bilo, a Calbred, by a diminishing head over Surf Cat for Martin Jones and Joe Talamo. I got to tell you, this young kid can ride. He's second. I believe he's second in the Hollywood standings behind Michael Bays. But Surf Cat had to wait for room for a few strides, turning for home. Bilo shook away from him, opened up. But I've got to think they're pretty happy with Surf Cat's
with Surf Cat's return, absolutely, yes.
Now, we have got a different chroma key behind us for the last 35 minutes of the show. You are looking at a live shot of Saratoga Racecourse. We're in a very short period of time. We will be there for the greatest race meet in North America. Jim Barber there preparing everything for a tremendous amount of programming over those 6 weeks. So that's a live shot on a beautiful Saturday morning of beautiful and historic Saratoga Racecourse. All right, we continue with our stakes recap. Going to go to Churchill for a pair of 2-year-old races, beginning with the Bashford Manor. These are 2-year-old males going 3/4 of a mile, and watch number 4, Kodiak Cowboy. Kodiak Cowboy broke his maiden at Churchill 2 starts back at 12-1. He was quite impressive that day. They sent him north of the border. I'm surprised they didn't ask you to go with him.
Well, yeah.
And he won the Victoria Stakes at 75 cents to the dollar. That's because you don't beat a whole lot up there. But Kodiak Cowboy here is going to stalk the pace while 3 wide in hand under Corey Lannery. He's going to open the lead turning for home and go on to a 2 3/4 length victory over the lightly raced Dr. Nick, who is number 8, making only his second start for Dale Romans. Number 5, Crackalakin, was third, but Kodiak Cowboy for Steve Asmussen looked good in winning the Bashford Manor.
I think Steve trained his sire Posse. I didn't look it up, but
yeah,
Posse was a precocious runner at 2 and pretty talented one. Whether or not he'll go on to go longer distances, I don't know. His family's got some good ones in there, West by West. But this is very, very solid. I'm sure we're going to see him. Steve's at Saratoga shortly thereafter. I mean, that's got hopeful written all over it, the way he settled and came from off the pace. But, you know, you'll hear Steve's name again shortly this morning.
Kodiak Cowboy winning it by 2 3/4 off fractions of 21 3 and 45 flat. Covered the 3/4 of a mile in 1:09 flat. That's 3 in a row for Kodiak Cowboy. Now, a couple of races earlier, 2-year-old fillies were in the spotlight in the Debutante Stakes. And even though this race is going to go a tick slower than the Bashford Manor, I was quite impressed by the performance of number 5, Rated Feisty, a gray daughter of Exchange Rate. She was 2 for 2 coming in here. She had broken her maiden over the poly track at Keeneland pretty easily at 7.5 to 1. Then she faced the boys, including Reddy's Image from Todd Pletcher, over a sealed sloppy track in winning the Kentucky Breeders' Cup. Here, against her own sex, she is going to be pretty quick out of the gate, going to rate pretty kindly for Sean Bridgman. Sean's going to hit her a couple of times in the run through the stretch, but then you're going to see him really take a hold of her the last 70 yards, and Rated Feisty is going to remain unbeaten as she's going to win the debutante by 6.5 in a very nice performance.
I give a lot of credit to Sean going down the backstretch. She clearly knows she's the best in this bunch, and she clearly knows she can run away from him at any time. And he was, I like to say that there's that sort of, you're walking a tightrope with some horses when you don't want to discourage them, yet you know they want to go. I thought he did a very important thing down the backstretch. She was just on the muscle all the way. She's by Exchange Rate. I've said this on the show before. This guy is a really, really good young sire. I think Ermine's a Grade 1 winner for his. Swat Flipperoo is. Exchanger was on the trail. But this one right here, the way she responded to Sean and then opened up again in the stretch, I happen to agree with Mark. Of the two-year-old races here, this is one that you'd walk away from the track with uppermost in your mind.
Yeah, you know, 109 and 1, again, a tick slower than the boys in the Bashford Manor, but that's meaningless to me. I thought she looked very, very good, and she is destined to race here at Saratoga. Steve Asmussen won both of those 2-year-old stakes. He won both of them handily. Steve Asmussen had a record-setting spring-summer meet at Churchill Downs. Steve had 46 victories, eclipsing the old record of 43. Ladies and gentlemen, as good as that is, the staggering statistic came with 2-year-olds. Steve Asmussen won 19 races with 2-year-olds at the spring-summer meet. That's almost
I was going to say, how many of them, were there maybe 25 or 30 tops?
Just
wow. No, that is incredible.
He won nearly every maiden race.
I did not know that. That's unbelievable.
I've never heard of anything like that. And I'm almost certain of this statistic. 19 wins with 2-year-olds, and we will see certainly a number of them come Saratoga.
Holy
now,
mackerel.
Up to this point, you've seen nothing but stakes races. You know, change that a little bit, because on closing day at Churchill Downs, they ran a pretty tidy little optional claimer for older horses going 1 1/16, and it featured the return of number 7, Brass Hat. He had not run in 13 months. He was coming off an injury-related layup, and Buff Bradley bringing him back. Obviously, this is not his main goal.
Oh, absolutely not.
Looking down the road. The favorite in here, number 5, Student Council, from our friend Neil Howard. Brass Hat, the second choice, also at 2 to 1. Student Council right now is second on the outside, stalking a conservative pace, 24 and 2 and 47 and 4. While Brass Hat, 4th at the top of your screen on the outside. Well, the first half may have been conservative, but the end of this race was run very, very quickly. You're going to see a stirring stretch battle between Student Council and Brass Hat. In the end, I think quality is going to prevail here. Class is going to show, as Brass Hat will win this return by a head, and in the process set a new track record. Pretty good comeback.
You'd almost say to yourself, did I want it to be this good after such a layoff? Couldn't I have him like move forward for 3 or 4 races before I get to the big races of the fall? This is really an unbelievably game return to the races, and I'll have to doff my hat to my partner here and say that I may have to write the graded stakes committee. This could be the first grade 1 allowance optional claimer in thoroughbred racing history. He beats a fine field, does it with elan, if you will, but you gotta wonder if he was, well, you're gonna be talking to him shortly. What a tremendous return after such a long time off.
Last 2.5 furlongs in 29-4. That is amazing. 141-1, a new track record. I believe that track record had stood for quite a while. Wow. Bad news in here, perfect drift. He just can't come back to form. Yep. But what a return by Brass Hat. And now, folks, our third guest this morning, the man who engineered that comeback, he rejoins us, ladies and gentlemen, live via telephone from Kentucky, Mr. Buff Bradley, Buff Mark Casano, and Mike Veach, welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Thank you, Mark and Mike.
Good to speak with you again, Buff.
13 months away, he comes back and sets a track record. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, we didn't expect him to do that. In fact, I knew he was doing very well, but we didn't know that he would even win. That was a very tough race that he came back in. We were just hoping to see him come back and show us a run down the lane, but we were all shocked. We really were.
Buff, please remind our audience what sent Brass Hat to the sidelines following last year's Stephen Foster.
About 2 weeks after the Stephen Foster, he went out for work, and when he came back from the work, he looked like he took a little bit of bad step and was off a little bit. We got back to the barn and immediately x-rayed the right ankle and found a cracked sesamoid. And so, the vet said, well, these are the hardest bones to heal, but just see what you can do. No surgery required, and we'll see if we can give him some time and see if he comes back. And he healed remarkably well and remarkably fast. The vets gave us clearance to go ahead with him early on, but we gave him about 2 more months off after the vet said we could start on him, just so he could have some time outside a little bit more. The weather was breaking at that time, so we felt that he needed to get out and enjoy it a little bit.
Buff, let's take a look at that comeback once again, breaking from the far outside post. Talk to our audience about this performance, if you would.
Well, going down the backside, I felt he was in really good position and thought, he was relaxed really well. Willie had him right where he should have had him. When they turned for home, I thought, well, he's going to kick in, and he did, but the other horse was really tough and hung with us all the way down the lane and looked like even at the 16th pole, the horse was going to come back and beat him. And I got him to the 8th pole. I think his heart got him all the way home, though.
Good, that's good.
Buff, Willie Martinez rode him for you once again. What do you have to say to you after the race?
He says he's unbelievable. He says he's back. And every workout before, even coming back this year, his workouts have been, he's put more into them. And we've never expected him to be a workhorse or how he was going. So it was pretty amazing. Even throughout his comeback before the race, we knew that he was very eager to get back racing.
Buff, it's wonderful that he came back and put in an effort like this, but let's talk about potential negatives. Setting a track record the first time back might not be the greatest thing. How has he looked to you in the last week since this race?
Well, he really came out of it strong, and you're right. And going to the Whitney, we wish we had about another week to just see, just to see. But he's come back very well, and I mean, he's trained super in the mornings. About the third day after his race, we were walking him and put him back in his stall, and somebody had given him some peppermints, and I didn't have one for him, and he bit me in the stomach. So I said, well, he's ready to go back to the track. He just is remarkable. I mean, he comes out of the race well. His legs were great. And his attitude has been really good. And just, Willie Martinez, he told me this morning, he said, man, he just gallops so nice.
Good.
And because he watches him gallop. And then Neil Howard even commented on him the other day. And, he was on his pony, and he really looked like he came out of that good. So, I think he bounces back pretty good.
Buff, he's 6 years of age now. We have seen over the years numerous high-quality horses go to the sidelines because of injuries, come back, and Buff, I think it's pretty accurate to say 9 out of 10 times, or maybe more, they don't come back anywhere near as good as they were when they left the track. Could Brass Hat really come back and return to top form?
Well, they told us when he fractured his leg at Lone Star, his 3-year-old year, he had a condylar fracture. We did surgery on him right there at Lone Star, put 2 pins in his ankle. Several vets told me that, he can come back, but he might not be as good as he once was. Well, he went on to win the Grade 1 Dawn and set a track record there. And, won the New Orleans Handicap and finished second in Dubai.
Yep.
So we felt that, well, he it doesn't matter to him. He's going to come back, and I think he will. I felt like if he could win that tough of a race the other day, that he's going to be back to his old self. And hopefully, we can keep him healthy and he stays around a long time for us.
Buff, you mentioned the Whitney a few moments ago. Is the Whitney definitely his next start?
Well, it's a strong possibility. We've talked to Arlington Park, too. They've got the Washington Park Handicap there. Last year I was really wanting to go to the Whitney, so if one of them was on a different date, that might make my mind up a little easier. But since they're both on the same date, we're leaning towards the Whitney at this time.
Buff, are you a little bit concerned that the Whitney comes back pretty quick off a big effort like that?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. The Washington Park's the same way too, except that it won't have near the competition. I'm sure. I know quite a few good horses that will be going in the Whitney, and to ask him for a performance like that twice in a row is going to be tough, I'm sure. But he's sure. Like I said, I didn't expect him to win that race the other day. Show us good effort, and I thought all along, if he won that race, much less at the track record, they better watch out, because he's going to be back to his old self.
Well, Buff, first of all, congratulations on a great job bringing him back. That was a sensational performance. We're looking forward to seeing you and Brass Hat here at Saratoga shortly, and thanks again for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Buff.
Buff, very
Bradley,
much.
ladies
Great
and
work.
gentlemen. What a
great training job. Wow.
And Neil Howard, who he beat in that race.
Yeah.
We know Neil's one of the classiest guys around.
Indeed.
But Neil said, man, my horse ran as good as he could.
Yep.
What a great job Buff did bringing him back off 13 months.
Oh.
So congratulations. And it'll be good to see him here at Saratoga. And we are up to our final break on this morning's July 14th edition of Down the Stretch. I think my partner's body temperature is now about 103 here in the studio. When Michael and I return, our final guest of the morning will join us, trainer Tim Hills. Gimme credit to one of my favorite New York breds. Last year I got on a little roll with him, particularly here at Saratoga.
Yeah, indeed.
Later today, he will face Open Company in the poker, and we'll talk to Tim about him in just a few moments. As we go to this final break, closing day at Churchill, the Locust Grove, fillies and mares on the proper surface. So we'll take a look at the Locust Grove going to the break, and Michael and I will be back with trainer Tim Hills right after these messages.
Off and running in the Locust Grove. More Lacana broke on top. Eyes on Eddie now takes the lead up the inside. Catascella on the outside came away racing third. Far outside is Quite a Bride, next by 2.5 to Lemons Forever, who tucks in at the hedge, and Quiet Royal trails. Underneath the Twin Spires for the first time, it's Catascala leading it by 1.5 lengths. Now Quite a Bride up to the outside to challenge second. More Lacana racing third. Eyes on Eddie fourth by 2 to Lemons Forever, who's saving ground in the back with Quiet Royal, who trails through the opening quarter mile down the straightaway in 24 seconds flat. Rounding the turn, Catascala leads it by 1.25 lengths now to Quite a Bride to the outside in second. Up to challenge now. Then it's More Lacana tucked in on the inside in third. Eyes on Eddie fourth by 2.5 to Lemons Forever, who's now 5 lengths off the pace and 2 in front of Quiet Royal, who trails. Half mile in 47 4/5 seconds. Midway up the backstretch, they continue just over a half to go. Catascala leads it by 1.5 lengths. Quite a Bride in second. More Lacana third along the inside. Eyes on Eddie racing in fourth. Quiet Royal inching up the inside through traffic now, and Lemons Forever picks it up 3 wide. Around the far turn, the race starting to tighten up here. 1:11 4 for 6 furlongs. There goes Quite a Bride on by to take the lead. More Lacana following her into stride with Quiet Royal out the inside as they straighten away on the stretch dry. They turn for home. Quite a Bride off the turn, shaken up by Robbie Alvarado, leading it by a length. More Lacana and Julian LaPeroux take dead aim on them now. Back to Quiet Royal, slowly picking up the top pair. Final furlong. More Lacana pouring it on. She opens up by 1.5 lengths. Quite a Bride back into second. Quiet Royal third. More Lacana winning the Locust Grove by nearly 2 lengths on the line. Very tight for the place. Quite a Bride or Quiet Royal. Then Lemons Forever was fourth.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left. I'm Mark Asano with a live shot of Saratoga Racecourse as a backdrop. You just took a look at the Locust Grove, where More Lacana for Patrick Biancone and the meet's leading rider, Julien Leparoux, win by 1.25 lengths over Quiet Royal. Quite a Bride lost second, the very last jump. Our final guest this morning has a very, very nice New York bred. I liked him very, very much last year as a 3-year-old. Later this afternoon, he will start against some big boys in the poker here in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us live via telephone, the trainer of Gimme Credit, Mr. Tim Hills. Tim, Mark Asano, and Mike Veach welcoming you to Down the Stretch.
Well, glad to be here.
Good morning, Tim.
Tim, I'll tell you, last year, terrific 3-year-old campaign for Gimme Credit, at one time winning 5 in a row. Talk about him to our audience, if you would, please.
Well, as a 2-year-old, he was kind of a fat, slow, lazy horse. He hadn't shown us much at all. We did run him once in a sprint on the grass, and he showed some life. I think he finished maybe third, didn't get beat that badly. And we elected to give him the winter off between his 2- and 3-year-old year. And we also gelded him, which I don't think hurt him any. He came back and trained like a different horse. First time back, I believe he broke his maiden in the mud, and then he just went on a tear. He got real good. He trained well and he ran well, and did it the right way. Mostly, he was a little aggressive early in his races, and whenever we could get him covered up and have some pace for him to run at, he really would fire in the stretch.
Tim, as I mentioned, at one point last year, including a couple here at Saratoga, won 5 in a row, but I thought he tailed off a little bit at the end of last year. Might that have been somewhat due to the competition, or were there other reasons?
I think you're right, he did tail off, and I think it was kind of a long campaign. And when I shipped him to Keeneland, we had learned that wherever we would ship him, when we shipped him to Saratoga for the summer, when we shipped him back to Belmont, he's he does everything else right, but when he ships, he doesn't do well. He got kind of colicky, and when he shipped to Keeneland, he wasn't real happy. Of course, I think he ran his race. Kip DeVille is a very legitimate horse, but I thought maybe he lost a step there. We tried to go one more race with him. We shipped him to Florida, and as a prep for the Pete Axhelm, which was the last 3-year-old stake of the year on the grass. And in the prep for that, he was not the same horse. He had a good trip and didn't fire. So we elected to just kick him out for the winter. And when he came back, he was kind of the same deal as between his 2- and 3-year-old year. He came back bigger and stronger, and has trained extremely well since.
Tim, you freshened him, brought him back in an optional claimer, set the pace, and weakened to 6th. I was a little bit disappointed in the effort, but I don't know how tight you had him and how fit he was for that race. Were you disappointed in his comeback?
Not really, because I've learned over the years that if you train a horse to the minute for their first start back, you kind of train them so hard. A lot of times you do more harm than good by overtraining them, and you take a race or two away from them. So he was not quite 100% tight for that race, and it was a paceless race, and he really, really liked, as we saw in the next race, he liked something to run at, and so it was chalked up to it was a good solid race that he needed, and it set him up really well for the notoriety.
Well, we are about to take a look at that, and I know you weren't disappointed in this effort. I'll tell our audience, he is number 5. He'll be 3rd from last as we pick up the video. Tim, when Cornelio found room in the run through the stretch, gimme credit, literally exploded. Talk about this performance, if you would.
Well, he was in traffic, but he's a small horse, but really quick, what they call a turn of foot. So all he was searching for when he turned for home is finding a seam, and it wasn't a big seam, and it didn't last long, but it didn't take long for him to get through it. He exploded through there. I would term that. I was impressed, and I think dozens of other people said the same thing. And Christophe Clement came up to me in the paddock when I was a couple of days later, and he said, "Tim, I've been following that horse." And, a lot of trainers don't compliment other trainers. He said, that was a very impressive race. I would term it one of those wow races. You just kind of stand there and shake your head and say, that horse did that? So it was a lot of fun.
Tim, he appeared to relax and settle nicely in here while covered up. Is that one of the keys to him performing well?
Absolutely. Being able to turn him off and on, and his maturity is a factor in that. Before he got kind of rank and he didn't want to run over the top of horses early, and now he's learned to chill. He's still aggressive, and he's very much in the bridle, but he's not burning himself out being anxious. He's just saying to the rider, "I'm ready to go whenever you want me to. Let me go."
Tim, how did he come out of that race, and how's he been training up to this afternoon's poker?
Well, we came back and breezed him what was supposed to be an easy 5/8, and he was very aggressive, went 101 and change. So we didn't want to. On his next work, we tried to fool him and get a work into him that he wasn't quite as aggressive, and he came back with a nice easy half. And I think that set him up just right for this race.
Tim, you could have run him, I believe, on Thursday against State Breds in the NASCAR's Breeze. Why the poker?
Cornelio Velasquez, after his last race, said, you keep this horse in these one-turn races, 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs a mile, he can beat anybody. So we kind of took his advice. I think there's more pace in the race, and he really likes pace to run at.
Tim, Saratoga, as you know, is just around the corner. Anything penciled in on the schedule for Gimme Credit once we get to the spot?
I think he really liked that inner turf course up there. I think there's a state bred race going 1 1/8 miles, which is a stretch for him, but against New York breds, I think he can handle it. So that's probably what we'll aim him for, and maybe get a race prepping for that in between. I think it's called the Albany. I might be wrong, but it's a 1 1/8 miles on the grass for New York breds.
Well, Tim, congratulations. I really like him a lot. Followed his career ever since the beginning of last year. Was very impressed with his effort in the notoriety, and really looking forward to him running this afternoon in the poker. Congratulations, best of luck this afternoon, and thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Good luck,
Tim Hills,
Tim.
ladies
Good
and
luck.
gentlemen, the conditioner of Gimme Credit. This is not an easy spot. These are tougher horses. In fact, let's take a look at the field for this afternoon's poker. 1 mile on the proper surface. You've got Art Master, number 2 from Frankel. This is a son of Royal Academy. One race this year, a very good second to Harlington on dirt. Now he goes back to turf, draws the advantageous inside post, and gets the advantageous Garrett Gomez.
Yeah.
He's one of the ones to beat. Todd Pletcher, surprise, surprise, has number 8 Host in here, who looked good at winning the Elkwood at Monmouth in his last start, first race back from Dubai. But folks, I think if Gimme Credit settles and relaxes the way he did last time, those 2 very fine horses are going to have their running shoes on, because I think he's going to run well again.
He loves it there. Yeah, he's in terrific form.
This is a very, very good race. Billy's Mott's got classic campaign. As long as they race him in blinkers, he's fine. But you know, the New York bred Gimme Credit has a very nice chance this afternoon in the Poker Stakes. And our thanks to Tim Hills for having joined us. All right, a couple of final reminders here for you. The backdrop you're looking at is a live shot of Saratoga, and we will be at Saratoga for the 6 Saturdays, but a little bit different time frame. We will be on every Saturday beginning at 10:30 for 60 minutes, and we will attempt to bring you the best guests we can, those men and women who have the top horses in that Saturday or that weekend stakes, as well as the top newsmakers. So remember, Down the Stretch, every Saturday during the Saratoga meet, 60 minutes beginning at 10:30. Speaking of Saratoga, the New York Racing Association once again offering season passes. So for those of you who, figure you're going to be there at least half of the days, in the case of a clubhouse pass, if you figure you're going to be there more than 15 days, it just makes sense to get the pass. Grandstand, you only have to be there a third of the time, 12 days. And next week, right up through next Saturday, you can get those passes with cash or check at the customer services office between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. And next Sunday, July 22nd, at the Saratoga Open House from noon until 4. And I believe you're able to use your credit card during the open house. Final reminder for those of you who would like to correspond with us here at Down the Stretch, here are the ways in which you can do that. Through the United States Postal Service, Down the Stretch, Mark and Mike, Capital District OTB 510 Smith, Schenectady 12305, or electronically at viewermail@capitalotb.com. Coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes or so, prime time, beginning at 12:45, right here on the network. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Pat Peretta directed, and Kurt Flick and Dan Hayes, and our associate producer, Julie Hoxie. And special thanks to this morning's guests, Jack Knowlton, the retirement of Funnyside, Steve Standridge, Tim Hills, and Buff Bradley. An era has come to an end with
And it really
Saturday.
has, yeah. But, you know, I just think it's so, what they did at Finger Lakes was just so wonderful that you know, 12,000 would come out for Funny Side. I just think they really wrapped this thing up right, and that he could go out on a winning note is so wonderful. I mean, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sure the local media did a good job out there with, you know, Funny Side. But that, to me, that was a very big story, what happened, that a horse could still draw a serious crowd to the track. I think that's great. I really do.
11 victories, a dual classic winner, a champion, even though you voted for Empire.
Well, I'm forever going to have to live that one down, I think. But leading New York bred money winner of all time.
$3.5 million.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, and a fine-looking horse. And boy, Barkley, how good you had him for both of those races. It beat a lot of horses on Preakness Day, let alone the Derby.
No question about it. And what he did for the sport. I'm not sure exactly how you measure that, but you know, certainly one of the most popular horses of the modern era.
Of our time, I agree with that.
So Funny Side retired, and we thank Jack for having joined us this morning. And as always, we thank you so much for having joined us. Have a great weekend. I know you're getting a little warm in here, so you're ready to go.
Oh, boy.
Next Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, one of the top 3-year-olds in the nation, rags to riches, in the coaching club American Oaks. It won't be a walkover because Todd Pletcher is going to enter.
He's going to make sure it's not going to be a walkover.
Right. But that's going to be fun on next Saturday's show. So have a good weekend.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy all the wonderful racing action from coast to coast this weekend here at Capitol. Have a terrific weekend and an outstanding upcoming week. And Michael and I will see you next week.